What's up, gang? It's Jay Bunny, and I just got back from NAMM. And NAMM, for those of you who don't know, National Association of Music Merchants. So, I wanted to make a video talking about, while it's still fresh, talking about my experiences going to this show. And, maybe for those of you who haven't been, or maybe, and maybe talk about things that I learned from attending, because I've been twice now. And the first time, I think, like a lot of people do the first time they go, is they pretty much just get drawn to the giveaways, and they get drawn to all of the array of new products. And my goal this time was not to play. I certainly did that the first time, but my goal this time was more to study the products coming out and learn from the people who are running the booths, who a lot of them tended to be pretty important people, if not the creator of that business. So yeah, I mean, if I could break it down, NAMM was basically the same structure as the years before. It was like a massive floor space for electric guitars, for instruments, basically. Electric guitars, drums, flutes, violins, cellos. So there's like orchestra, rock, lighting, and on the very, very left would be like acoustic instruments like cajones, guitars, ukuleles. And on the very right, it's just lighting and stage stuff. And so that's like the main convention floor. A much smaller floor that I focused on this time was the Pro Audio convention space, which was its own building. And I'd say one that's about at least 5 times smaller than the big instrument one. And that kind of makes sense because instruments are so much easier to get into. They appeal to, there's a reason that, for schools, the marching band is this big, and the orchestra is this big, and the people who actually do the recording are usually 1, 2, 3 people in charge of that whole thing. So, I mean, just looking at the size of how many instrument companies there are and how much room that takes versus the world of pro audio, recording, mixing, and that. Instruments are a bigger industry. Yeah, just something that you can easily tell, pro audio is much more niche. That said, I mean, the NAMM show runs really smoothly. It's just so much, there's just so much stuff to do, so many giveaways, so many people to talk to, that it's seriously like, I went all 3 days, and it is way too little time to do everything. I mean, I was trying to stick to a pretty efficient schedule, because there are talks, there are lectures from notable people, and lectures where you can learn a lot. Some of these are like, all of these are really serious professionals, but some of these talks are like really valuable. Jason Joshua talking about his plug-in chain and the philosophy behind building the God particle. CLA and TLA talking about just rambling and giving us their vibe and perspective on how to be a engineer, how to be iconic. Yeah, those kind of those level of talks and certain other insights were just super, super cool. And I'd have to say for the lectures, um, they were all held in separate like lecture places that were about like 200 people capacity, and I was expecting a lot more people to be showing up to these lectures, but actually there was a lot less. Usually these talks were not filled to capacity, which kind of is an indication that the community of pro audio is decently small, as a matter of fact. It's small, it's much smaller than you might assume. Um, so, in other words, what I gleaned from being privy to this concentration of, great speakers and lectures and whatnot is that the pro audio community, from an outsider's perspective, I mean, it probably seems really niche, but when you're in it, you get so used to brands like Sound Toys or like just other brands. Like, you get so familiarized with their equipment, Warm Audio, all the people who Neve, Neumann, Universal Audio, just household names, but within pro audio, that you tend to assume everybody knows what you're talking about, but literally no one does unless they're in that world. So, in other words, what I'm trying to say is, the world of pro audio is actually freaking way smaller than one might expect, because the common man can probably relate to, if they don't do music, they probably can kind of understand what a Gibson guitar is. They probably can, identify a drum set, but they're not going to be talking cables, mics, amps, preamps, like tech, let alone like the software side of things. So it was, I mean, to that point again, like, my philosophy going into the pro audio space was talk to these people running their booths and get their stories on how they got started, their journey into this world of pro audio, and finding their careers and affiliations with these awesome companies that I'm sure some of you really love. So, yeah, I mean, to summarize my experience with NAMM this year was, it was great. It was a great time. Pretty much everyone there was just really nice, and you can tell everyone there is really about their business. They're way more seasoned than you'd think. I talked to some company, I didn't directly speak to the owner of Mick DSP, but I talked to some people, I forget exactly who. I talked to some new employees, I talked to some seasoned people within that company, and I found out a little bit about their company structure. I believe it's only 20 people in that company. They're based in the Bay Area. And actually, to that point, I talked with, someone from SSL who had been in the business for like 30 years. And, that I learned, so I talked to the big companies, I talked to the small companies, and I talked to the middle companies that could tailor to both, amateur or just, smaller clients, or bigger private sector clients. And you know, it is such a small world. Um, what I would say I gleaned about this pro audio industry, or I guess the music industry as a whole industry, um, not as much the entertainment side, but the merchandise, the it. What I'm trying to say is what I gleaned is that the pro audio side moves fast and it's very competitive. Um, and you can kind of see that by how small certain companies really are. Uh, I talked to the guys at Sound Toys, and I, I would have thought Sound Toys was a larger company because they're so popular, uh, and awesome, and you know they're just a household name, in my world. But um, the Sound Toys people said their team is like, I want to say like less than 50. Um, I talked with like a marketing manager, and I think she said, you know, she's awesome, super nice. I have your contact, by the way. I will reach out if I can, uh, if I can get my stuff together, my resume and stuff. But anyways, I believe she said that it's only 4 people or something like that on the marketing side. So I mean, and I talked to a dude from Waves, one of their R&D people, um, and you know Waves is so big, right? Waves is like a giant, in probably one of the most recognizable names in pro audio in the software side. And yeah, and he said kind of the same thing. I want to say maybe their company's like 200 people, but like, damn, so small, so small uh, compared to other operations. Because guys, again, I feel like it's really making me realize music is niche. You know, in the whole attention span of humanity, music is already niche. And then you get into the even nicher things like instruments, and then you get into the even nicher things like the software developer for recording this specific instrument. And it's like that's kind of the world that I was experiencing. And yeah, I mean, not to ramble, but I guess in summation, the most valuable thing I gleaned was the advice that these guys and girls were giving me. Not only their insight to how they find and bring people into their companies, but their journeys into the industry themselves. I thought that, you know, a couple years ago, when I was getting my associates in music production or audio, I thought that I could only take 1 or 2 paths. I could either be a recording or mixing engineer, or I could be a music producer / artist. Thought those were the only 2 paths for me. But with the advice that these pro audio people, you know, the insight that they gave me, you know, there are roles for graphic design, salesman, marketing team. There are roles for R&D. There are internships available. Even though these companies don't say they have official internships, a common response that I got was that they literally tell you they don't have an official way to get an internship in their company. It's just who you know, your availability, and kind of what you can do opportunistically in for convenience sake. Like, it's again, a lot of these companies, their resources are stretched thin and their company structure is streamlined. So I guess I came in a little naive, hoping that their companies would run similar to AMC, for example, to where it's a nationwide chain with like many, many locations. And, you know, I think I was a little naive thinking that because, you know, again, this stuff is so niche that it is not in it. I it if you had a company that only had a team of like 50 people, or that's that I mean, just in the AMC location could have a team of 50 people already. So um yeah, it's and like the stories of of how you know, these people, they're so nice. These people are so nice. The people who are running the booths, and you know, despite me being a student and not having any sales to offer them, they were so nice. They really took the time and told, you know, their story. One guy that was doing R&D for Waves, um, he said that he got affiliated with Waves because he was originally a live sound, like front of house guy in New York, and he said some Waves people came in one day and were asking him to test out some Waves hardware because they want to move in to a live sound capacity because their plugins are so great, but they're trying to now tailor plugins and hardware to work with low latency and a live sound capacity. So yeah, he was brought in to test some of that stuff, and then I guess they went on from there. Another guy from MAG Audio, MAAG, he was a teacher. He was a artist, a touring artist. Then he settled down, became a professor at a university. Then he just asked. He found out that Mag was located like in his town, and he just went over, sent the guys a message over there, and asked like, "Hey, can I come out and test some of your products out?" And then they struck up a conversation, and then one thing led to another, and now he's like an officially like semi-employee of the company. So that's one avenue. That's another avenue. And yeah, I even met people that, you know, these companies are, you know, are companies. They're not just made of audio people. There's people that are marketing. There's people that are sales. There's people that are R&D. There's people that, you know, there's accountants. There's, you know, there's just standard company stuff. So that's to say, I even met people who didn't even have an audio background, but were part of that company as a visual designer. Just as important as audio people. And I think kind of being there and with my experience, like my you know, the fact that I love talking to people and I love being, I would love to be kind of like a brand ambassador. I think sales is kind of where I kind of fit in. And yeah, I was talking to this dude, 30-year tenure at SSL, one of the big boys in audio. And yeah, he just said like, you know, it's really who you know, and it's really about being at the right place at the right time. So in other words, like just being a serious part of the musical community around you, having a good reputation, not being a flaky POS, but like someone reliable and someone interested. Um, I think it'll take you a long way. And multiple people recommended that I start off at like my local guitar center, or something like that, because a lot of these positions within like SSL, or these freaking these guys from TT Audio, like the guys who design like speaker arrays and sell them to arenas and stuff, that these positions are not for like your average guy who just graduated and is like, hey, like I want to get involved with the music industry, like can I be a part of your sales team? No, like it's kind of occurring to me that unless you're born into these positions, it is kind of like, you'll get your turn, but you have to move up. Like any other corporation, you have to move up the ladder to, you start at one company, move here, move there, move here, move there, and then before you know it, now you have that call to be in a certain position. So anyways, guys, this I'm sorry that this video got kind of ranty, but I really have a lot on my mind after I went. And yeah, I might do like kind of like a part 2 or some sort of serious dedicated NAMM review, because this one feels like more of my thoughts and what I learned. But yeah, hey, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm just super passionate about this field, so essentially it's like I was just seeing the whole world of people who are living kind of the dream, kind of my goal in 5-10 years. I got to see that. So my final thoughts are, this industry is actually a lot more volatile, I from what I can glean, than I thought. I was having a discussion with my dad earlier about what I learned, and man, if you think that music trends move fast, like 2010s versus 2015, mid 2010s versus 2020s music, like TikTok music, man, these companies are having to adapt fast to the trends, because certain companies are geared towards recording certain sounds, certain niche sounds, right? Like, auto-tune is known for its presence within like that hip hop pop scene, right? But the hip hop, so like back when like Lil Wayne, T-Pain were doing their thing, Drake, with that early auto-tune. Fast forward only like a decade, and there are so many nuance. Okay, guys, okay, this is a separate video. I'm scared because this video is already breaking into 24 minutes long. I'm going to make another video ranting about this stuff at a later date. I'm probably going to make a part 2 to this, which is a review on my actual experience with NAMM. And yeah, so thank you guys so much for listening to my thoughts on this. And peace.